Well, last week we sort of was working away down in the bilge, cleaning the bilge pump. For 2 years we've been trying to find a water leak. We've known it's not coming from underneath, it's nothing serious as such, but water leaks do sink boats, and every time it rains we've been getting water down in the bilge. Now the bilge pump is in a wrong position, it's not at the lowest point, so we have a small pump that we have semi-permanently wired in position that we use just to clear the bilge out, but it's annoying. And if we leave the boat for any length of time, then water builds up in there, and we only need that bilge pump the actual bilge pump to fail, and we could have a serious problem. So started looking right at the stern of the boat and in the aft heads, and in a corner that was completely covered with cabinets and woodwork and fascias and everything else. I decided that always seemed a little bit sweaty, so I took that apart. Oh boy, have we found a leak? Oh, we found a serious leak. It happened to be absolutely teeming down outside whilst we were doing this, and water was coming through the hull, through the split line, and so we set to working through. Mind the cat, she's all over the bloody place. So we set to work on that and to repair that, which meant quite a bit of work, some of it quite hurried because we're dodging showers, but it was something that we need to do. Right, we've come across a bit of a problem. Ever since we've had Ava Grace, we've had a water leak somewhere, which is coming, as we said last week, coming from the outside when it rains. We've had a hell of a lot of rain this week, and we had a hell of a lot of water in the bilge. So we've been tracing it back and back and back, and we've come into the back loo, where we now think this is the prime culprit at the back of the boat, and we're having to do a little bit of a remodelling job.
Right, Dave set to and had the step up and looked underneath. He's had the bilge pump running, we've had that much water in there, and then he's come into the back like he says, and I don't know if you can see just here, these are part of the back toilet. And then when you come into the loo, oh look at that, we've got a big hole.
So this is what I have christened the hell hole. So we've got the aft heads down there, and this was a cupboard. It had a top on there. We've taken that off, and we think the leaking is in this back corner, which is looking, it feels dry, but it's certainly wet, and it's very wet down in that area there. And we can see, if I move this light down here, down into that area down there, that corner, that is very wet. Now some of it seems to run from the aft bilge pump outlet, but we tightened all that up last week, and there's some that runs down that back corner. So, but we're a bit worried about all the, it's wet there. So we're just taking apart all this back cupboard to give us better access. It's all just screwed in, but with lots of screws, it being a Carver. Yeah, small demolition job, and maybe we might end up with a remodelling project when we finish this, because there's a lot of wasted space.
It would make a lovely wardrobe.
Yeah.
Apart from the toilets in front of it.
Yeah, there's a loo in the way, and it's all moulded.
It's a lot bigger than my wardrobe.
So it doesn't have a lot of hanging space really, but we'll see. Yeah, so we'll carry on.
Okay.
I don't know how many of these damn screws I've taken out so far, but whew.
Okay, that's something else for me.
It's mucky at the bottom, wet at the bottom.
Where's the cloth gone?
Right. Okay. That's wet there. That's been dripping down there for sure. Right. We're getting closer, I think, because that's all very wet. All down there is very wet. That's been running down in that back corner there, so I think we're getting close to the culprit.
Right, so David thinks he's found where the leak is, somewhere around there, but to get to it we've had to take the back wrapper off, so we've now got to recover the back, which we have got plenty of covering, so that near the window will all have to come off as well, which is down there, so all that will have to come out. David's still trying to take the cupboard to pieces. He now wants this shelf off here, so he can take this cupboard door off, which gives him more room to get to where he thinks the damage is. But we're getting there. Not something we've planned on doing on Saturday afternoon, but hey ho, one of them things.
Well, there we are. That's
oh look, I've got outside light there.
yeah, that's all of that end cupboard panel gone. So we've got a hole down into there, we've got a hole to the back, but that looks to be up there, all that black looks like it's the area that is a problem. So I've scribed a line. I'm going to have to cut some fiberglass away there, which it's the original tabbing from Carver. Remove this, you'll see where they've tabbed in but not done a very good job. I'm afraid that's one of the first bits I've seen that is not good. So I'm going to cut that away. That'll really sort of open up some other areas, I'm sure. I'm going to have to re-tab all that in. It's all got to have to be ground away a bit and cleaned up and dried out before we can start re-tabbing. So this might be a couple of weeks job. And then we can see exactly where the water's coming in, but it's definitely, this side is very, very wet, and that's definitely coming in from when it rains. Right, so we've just taken all that tabbing away, and the water's pouring in, and it's through the split line between the lower hull and the upper hull on port side rear corner. We've dug it back and dug it back. There's some plywood back here which is saturated, to say the least. So we're having to dig that out. So working our way back through to try to get back to good wood. But it seems to be coming through where the screw holes are. They've not. This corner was supposed to have been repaired at some point, and in doing the repair they've made a botch. I think that's the simple answer. So all the trouble that we've been having with water in the bilge has been coming from this corner, but it's been doing a little bit of damage as it's been coming in. Not a lot, because most of it where it's coming on is fiberglass, so it's not a big issue, but thankfully we've now found the leak. So we've had a bit of respite from the rain, and we've had the rubbing streak off from the outside, and we found where the problem was. The gap between the upper hull and the lower hull has not been filled. So there's some great big holes, so we've it's got plenty of black, horrible black goo in there. Now outside looks a bit of a mess because we've had to rush it, and I'll spend time cleaning up later, because rain was threatening again. So now we can let this dry out. I'll get rid of some of this black goo in here, and then we can let it all nicely dry, and then we'll re-tab in with fiberglass, and then we can start rebuilding the aft heads. We'll insulate it all and put all new covering on the outer skin before we build the cabinets. Well, we've had heavy rain overnight this morning, and we seem to have sealed that leak. We have some other issues. We've got it's sweating a little bit, but that's because we've got no insulation now in here, so that all has to be put back together, and that joint needs filling right out. We've got some heat in here. I'm going to use West Systems 105 epoxy with 406. Build all that lot back up before we re-tab it in. So join us next time when we'll get the filler in place using the 406 thick epoxy. Might, if it fires off over the weekend, get it tapped, ready for relining. Be a couple of weeks before we get onto that, so then we can reline it, put the new insulation in, put the new lining material in place, and then start rebuilding all the cabinet.